Stop her!
We managed to capture the eggs, Your Highness. Every last one.
Excellent. Maybe you will amount to something after all. Now go guard the tunnels. Stop anyone from coming through.
Where are the eggs?
The holes came out on the other side of the dragon worlds. We found some of the eggs, but they were too heavy to carry back.
The other side of the world?
The Forgotten Realms. Spyro, you'll have to go. Nobody else can fit down the holes.
Yeah, come on, let's go!
Find the eggs and bring them back, Spyro. You're our only chance.
You got it!
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Spyro, Year of the Dragon. Oh boy, this game. Let me tell you, I have a history with each of the Spyro games on PS1 and Reignited Trilogy, but while my history with 1 and 2 are interesting enough on their own, my history with Year of the Dragon is also pretty interesting to mention because the original release of this game, it suffered some botches because it was a little bit rushed to meet a deadline, and funnily enough, something similar happened with Reignited Trilogy. I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about that. We just rescued a baby dragon named Isabelle, and now every single time I start Spyro Year of the Dragon, and I rescue that baby dragon, I can't not think about the Animal Crossing character. It's just one of those things, man. I don't know what else to tell you. And ooh, a nice pretty rainbow.
So, you're the one in charge of rescuing the eggs, huh? How sad. Look here, Dragon. If you know what's good for you, you'll turn around and crawl back into that hole you came through. Those eggs belong to us now, and I've hidden them in places you'll never find in 1,000 years. Besides, even if you could find any eggs, our expertly trained armies would hunt you down and take them back. Do I make myself clear? If I find you here again, I am going to be very angry, and you won't like me when I'm angry.
Incredible Hulk reference, perhaps? It's kind of funny. As we progress through the story, we'll find out more and more about Bianca over there as things progress, but for now, just keep an eye on her, you know, because her development throughout the story of Spyro Year of the Dragon is pretty interesting, honestly. Actually, that is something I can give Year of the Dragon compared to Spyro 1 and Spyro 2. I do think this one has the best story of the trilogy, but it's natural because it's a natural evolution to go from Spyro 1, which had barely any story, was a lot more like a Super Nintendo kind of game than anything else. I mean, voice acting aside, of course. I mean, I just mean more in terms of the story to gameplay balance. It's much more like an older game rather than a newer game in that regard, which is really interesting to look back on. But so Year of the Dragon, when it originally released on the PS1, when it comes to PlayStation 1 games, there is a Black Label release and there is a Greatest Hits release. Besides the fact that a Greatest Hits release will have like a green bar instead of a black bar on the cover, a lot of people would argue that it's ugly looking and not very aesthetically pleasing. The point is that Greatest Hits re-releases the games at basically half or less of their original MSRP, so it makes the games more accessible for people with lower incomes and whatnot.
I see an egg at the bottom of this lake. I would go get it, but I don't want to get my fur all wet. Maybe you could get it. You can dive underwater by pressing the charge button when you're on the surface, and charge underwater by holding down charge as well.
So in Spyro 2, you learned 3 new abilities going from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2. One of those abilities is the ability to swim. That's actually the first one you unlock in Spyro 2. After that would be the ability to climb ladders and the head bash, which is this. Basically a glorified ground pound. And if you come over here and see the sign, you see that Zoe has left a little note for Spyro regarding Sparks, the dragonfly. Unfortunately, you have to defeat the boss of a homeworld and then backtrack to the homeworld in order to access the Sparks level. Now, when we do the first Sparks level, I'm going to talk more about how this Let's Play will be handling the on-screen presence of certain parts of the Year of the Dragon to kind of trim the fat a little bit from the Let's Play to try and make the pacing of it more, at least closer to the other 2 games. By and large, however, Year of the Dragon is the largest Spyro game, the beefiest. It has the most to offer. I'm going to give it the credit where the credit is due. And even with Reignited, this is still not my favorite Spyro game. I believe that's still kind of a toss-up between the first 2, honestly. But when it comes to Reignited, how I feel about Year of the Dragon, Reignited has really made me learn to re-love, I would say. Rekindle the love I had for Spyro Year of the Dragon on the first playthrough that I ever did. Because, yeah, I mean, other than the whole dealing with the Black Label issues, which we will have plenty of time to discuss as this Let's Play continues. At any rate, this is the level portal to Mushroom Speedway. You don't see that right now, but you need 20 Dragon Eggs in order to access it. That's the level portal to Seashell Shore. I didn't get tongue twisted that time. That one requires 14 Dragon Eggs. And this level portal right here, you may have seen earlier, but I chose not to acknowledge it right away, is Molten Crater. You need 10 Dragon Eggs for that one, which you will usually get after you complete like 2 other levels besides the homeworld. There are 5 Dragon Eggs to collect here in the homeworld, so if you do this and 1 or 2 other levels, you will have enough eggs to unlock Molten Crater fairly easily, I would say.
Yo, Spyro! I just found one of those portal thingamajigs that leads to a different world, but you'll have to glide to get across to it. Press the jump button, then press jump again while you're in the air to glide. Just follow me.
Alright, so like in Spyro 2, Hunter takes on the role of the gliding tutorial, which is weird because he's a cheetah, and cheetahs are notorious for being able to run fast on the ground, but not being able to glide. So, just to refresh everyone that may be watching this Let's Play before any other Spyro Let's Plays I've done, to do a glide, you push the X button, or whatever the equivalent is on your control scheme of choice, to jump, and at the top of your jump, it's recommended, but you can actually do it at any time while you're in the air, push the jump button again, and you'll do a nice, easy glide.
I saw something shiny in that cave over there. Let's go check it out. You can get there by hovering. To hover, just press the action button at the end of your glide.
Introduced in Spyro 2 as well, and thankfully this ability was known by Spyro from the beginning, if you push the triangle button, or whatever the equivalent is, you will do a hover at the end of your glide, like so. Also, this is the level portal for Cloud Spires. This might be the second, or maybe the first level you do in Sunrise Spring. It's a fairly easy level, but we're actually going to save it for another time. Alright, hover here, and there you go.
Oh, I almost forgot. I found this egg.
And you rescue the dragon egg, dragon baby named Coltrane. One of the coolest baby dragon names in Year of the Dragon, I feel. I always look forward to getting Coltrane, which is pretty easy to do considering you get it from the usual gliding tutorial. So, you know. But, yeah, Hunter the Cheetah was introduced in Spyro 2. His never really explained why all of a sudden he's back in the dragon realm with Spyro by the time Year of the Dragon starts up. I guess he got tired of the scenery in Avalar and just wanted to change of pace or something like that. I don't know what else to tell you, honestly, but I mean, it's fine that he's here and all that. Actually, before we continue, I believe I'm missing a gem somewhere over here. Sad. I usually don't miss gems when I'm doing this, but thankfully, with our Sparks Treasure Finder, finding the gem is pretty easy to do. So, let's head back over to the Superfly portal. Yeah. There are power-ups in each of the Spyro games. So you go to the power-up portal, and the power-up portal will give you various abilities for a limited time. And in this case, it's the Superfly power-up. So, yeah, you go, you activate the portal, and you get the ability to fly anywhere you want for a very limited amount of time. And, well, there are speedway levels in the Spyro games that let you do this infinitely, but usually there's a catch. At any rate, with a little bit of a caveat, we have 100% completion for the first home world at Sunrise Spring, which is great. But I'm more concerned about the animal friend caged up over there, and a certain grubby Ursine who really needs our attention right now.
Spyro! My, how funny to see you here. Why, I haven't seen you since we defeated Ripto in Avalar. Well, my business went into a slump after you left, so I came here and struck up a nice deal with the local sorceress. Lovely woman she is. Seems to be very fond of dragons, too. I'm getting paid a fortune to keep Sheila the kangaroo locked up. This pesky animal must have been causing a lot of trouble for that poor sorceress. I suppose I could accidentally let the kangaroo escape, if you were to pay me, say, a small fee.
There's Moneybags' defining quote, a small fee.
Ah, Spyro, I love your sweet naivete. Your kind-hearted nature might be your downfall someday, but for the time being, it's making me rich. I hope you appreciate this favor I'm doing in letting you out.
That's good of you, mate. No hard feelings, eh?
Right. After all, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah. I reckon you'd be one of them dragons then.
Yeah, name's Spyro.
Never thought I'd see one. You dragons used to rule this entire world, you know? Then all of a sudden you left. Poof!
Dragons used to live here?
Didn't you know? They say it was over 1,000 years ago, I think.
And they just left?
Yeah, and the weird thing is, after they left, all the magic in the world just sort of went with them. I mean, they say this world used to have magic coming out of the wazoo. Flying ships, singing forests, wishing stones, you name it. But when the dragons left, it all just dried up.
Is that why some of the portals don't work?
Yeah, they're starting to fade out too, one by one. Well, I gotta get back home and do some damage control. Come visit anytime you like. Thanks again, Spyro. Now I have to find out what that nasty sorceress has done to my home while I was locked up.
Hiya, Sheila. While you were gone, a bunch of rhinos kicked us out of our houses. It's okay, though. Bobby, Pete, and I are working on a clever plan to take them back.
So welcome to Sheila's Alp. Yes, it's kind of strange that a kangaroo's home is in the mountaintops with a bunch of other billy goats. I'm not too terribly familiar with Australia, other than a few of their unique animal species, mostly of the venomous variety. Thankfully, kangaroos, as far as I know, are not venomous. It would be interesting if they were, though. At any rate, though, as far as I know, kangaroos aren't usually found near the mountaintops. I think they're usually found in savannas and plains and whatnot, maybe deserts. Not too sure about that last one, but yeah, it's definitely weird. But then again, the universe of Spyro the Dragon is already pretty weird and fantastical, you know, so it doesn't really bother me. It never bothered me back in the day, so why should it bother me now that I know better?
Home at last. Here, I was saving this to make an omelette, but I think you deserve it more.
Ah, Ruby. Now whenever I rescue this baby dragon in Year of the Dragon, I think of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Those actually came out a few years after Year of the Dragon. Even though it feels like it's the other way around with how the game's aged in particular. Interesting. At any rate though, Sheila's gameplay is much more jump heavy than Spyro, who is more glide and charge and flame friendly. Yeah. For combat, Sheila only has her 2 feet, basically. She kicks enemies in order to deal damage to them. It's equivalent to a charge in terms of the damage output, I would say. So you're good for taking care of basically any kind of enemy. Maybe not large enemies, but as far as I know, Sheila never deals with large enemies, so she doesn't have to worry about using a flame attack or anything like that. Could you imagine a fire-breathing kangaroo? I don't know, that just sounds kind of funny to me, honestly. But, yeah, Sheila, being the first animal buddy that you rescue, is definitely the simplest in terms of gameplay. Even simpler than Spyro. Even Spyro 1 Spyro, I would argue. Because even in Spyro 1, Spyro had the supercharge and the super flame from the fairies to spice things up a little bit.
Hey, Sheila, let's play a joke. Take this egg and smash it on Billy's house, okay? I need to get him back for the last time he butted me off the cliff.
An interesting design change that I've noticed with the Billy Goats here. I think each of them have different horn patterns, which they definitely never had in the original Year of the Dragon. Speaking of redesigns, Sheila got a pretty big redesign. In the original Year of the Dragon, she looked like a basic PS1 model kangaroo. And I mean, the design was as basic as it could get. She didn't have any hair on her head, or at least none that was obvious, just her fur, you know. And she didn't wear anything. Now she wears a jacket of some sort, and she has red hair. So I think it's a very good design change, honestly. Well, I suppose there's a first for everything. Dying and Sheila's out. It makes for more variety, but yeah. You might need to be careful with her kicks, because the range can be a little limiting. Just a little bit, not too much. Thankfully, once you collect the gems from these mushroom houses, I don't think you have to recollect them after that. But yeah, these enemies can sneak up on you sometimes. But when you get hit, Sparks the Dragonfly changes color. And interestingly enough, only on the PS4 version, for some reason, when you use your DualShock 4 controller, the light on the controller will change color to match the color of Sparks the Dragonfly. So he's blue right now. If I was playing on PS4 instead of the Switch, it would show a blue light on my controller. Sadly, there is no equivalent to that on Xbox or Switch. I guess not on PC either. But it's a pretty interesting exclusive that the PlayStation version has, because Spyro used to be a PlayStation exclusive. So it is what it is there. And thankfully there's an extra life butterfly here to help me get back up to speed, as it were. Honestly, I think it's more interesting when people play Spyro and you're watching them if they die, because it's actually pretty hard to die in Spyro, honestly.
If you ever forget how to control a character or vehicle, just go to the pause menu and select controls.
Pretty useful to bring this up now, because Spyro Year of the Dragon has so much more gameplay variety to it. Not just with the animal buddies, but also Spyro himself has a few new tricks up his sleeve too. Just maybe not in the way that you're expecting. We're actually going to see something like that in Sunnyvilla fairly shortly here, actually. We should be moving on as soon as we get the last few gems here in Sheila's Alp, the last egg from her other Billy Goat friend over here, and there are no skill points to worry about in Sheila's Alp, thankfully. So once you have the 400 gems, just talk to the last Billy Goat over here, and you should be good.
Thanks for the help, Sheila. Oh, you can have this egg I found in my house.
Nan. Such a simple name. We also rescued a baby dragon named Jenny earlier, which makes me think of the Nickelodeon show My Life as a Teenage Robot. Alright, so welcome to Sunny Villa. This might be the first proper level that most people will do here in Year of the Dragon, but I think I've seen some people do Cloud Spires as their first non-Sheila's Alp level. At any rate, since we no longer have intro or outro cutscenes, talking to the NPC, the first NPC to get the story, has never been more important.
Oh my, can you help us? Hordes of ferocious Rhinox have overrun our town and kidnapped the mayor.
I don't think that's how you spell counselor. But it has been a minute since I've had to spell that word one way or the other. Maybe I'm mistaken, or maybe just like with my Spanish, I am getting a bit rusty, one could say. I doubt it, though. But at any rate, Sunny Villa is based on Roman architecture and other such things. The way the NPCs talk, it kind of sounds like an Italian accent to me almost, but I don't want to offend anybody and say that it is an Italian accent when it could just be a Roman accent, potentially. So I'll just say that they have an accent and end it at that. At any rate, we're introduced to the Rhinoc enemies. We were actually introduced to them in Sheila's Alp, but to a much lesser degree. They weren't the only enemy types we were dealing with, after all. We were dealing with mooses as well. Oh man, those darn moose. They can be quite dangerous if you're not careful. Oh boy. You'll want to flame all of the potted trees, because by doing so, you'll get a skill point for that. The first proper skill point that we'll be getting in the Let's Play, I think.
This Rhinoc is too big to charge. You'll have to flame him using the attack button.
So the basic combat system for all of these Spyro games is that Spyro has a flame and he has a charge. Your flame can take care of basically any enemy that isn't wearing metal armor. If they're wearing metal armor, they are fireproof. But if they are small and wearing metal armor, you can take care of them with a charge attack, thankfully. But if they're large and meaty, like these larger Rhinoc enemies over here, carrying the giant chicken wings, it looks like, or drumsticks, I should say. Kind of a weird thing out of nowhere, but yeah. The large enemies will usually require a good flame in order to be defeated. Well, more often than not. But if you run into a large enemy wearing metal armor, that's when you'll usually have to be a little more creative with how you go about combat in that particular instance. So there's this somewhat hidden swirly over here. That's what the tornadoes are usually called. There's also something called a sub-area portal over there that will take us to a Sheila the Kangaroo section. We'll be saving that for the end of Sunny Villa, though. Not just because of convenience, but also because we just did Sheila's Alp, so there should be a reasonable time gap between instances of playing as another character. That's how I personally feel, anyway. So over here we have a baby dragon named Miles. No relation to Miles Edgeworth, I'm assuming, because Year of the Dragon came out before Ace Attorney. So, yeah, just a coincidence there. Could also be a reference to Miles Tails Per Hour from the Sonic series, but somehow I doubt that as well. Ah, there's a gem over there. Blends right in with the grass, don't you know? Thankfully, by clicking down on the left stick, you have Sparks' treasure finder to save the day. It is worth noting that in the original Year of the Dragon, the treasure finder wasn't accessible right away. You actually had to make it well over halfway through the game, and you had to complete one of those Sparks levels in order to unlock the ability to use the treasure finder, even though you had access to it from the start in Spyro 2. So it's nice that Toys for Bob retroactively fixed that in Reignited Trilogy.
Hi, Spyro. Each time a fairy zaps you, like this, it means your progress has been saved. If you get into trouble, you'll return to the last place you got zapped.
So Zoe was introduced in Spyro 2, and she serves much the same purpose in Year of the Dragon as she did in Spyro 2. Basically, glorified tutorial info dump, whatever Hunter doesn't tell you, she does. She also serves as a checkpoint. Same with the fairies from the original Spyro. Zoe is, however, a lot more talkative than the fairies that were in the original Spyro. I mean, you could argue that a lot of the dialogue in Spyro 1 came from rescuing the dragons, and the dragons would offer tutorial information on their end. So having the fairies give tutorial information on top of that did seem a little redundant in retrospect. So it's understandable why Insomniac took that approach when they made the original Spyro game. But we're coming up to the end of the main objective for Sunnyvilla. However, there's going to be 2 sub-areas that we have to deal with. We already saw one earlier, or at least the entrance of earlier, that being the Sheila section. Let's talk to this NPC over here, the mayor, and get the dragon egg.
Thank you for rescuing our town. As mayor, I award you with one of our famous giant chicken eggs.
And this chicken egg, they name it Sanders after the creator of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Also doing a chicken dance. Nice touch.
I'm sorry. That was the ugliest chicken I've ever seen.
By chicken standards, I probably have to agree, but by dragon standards, it's probably above average. But hey, the dragon design doesn't get better than good old Spyro the Dragon himself, right? I mean, am I right or am I right? Feel free to post in the comments if you agree or disagree. Comments are very helpful for the YouTube algorithm, don't you know? YouTube.
Hey Spyro, I found this gladiator training arena that also makes for a pretty cool skate park. Care for a test of your boarding skills? I bet you can't catch all 15 lizards running around here. Just come back if you want some boarding tips from the master.
Alright, so Spyro does skateboarding now. I have to assume that a lot of the reasoning for adding skateboarding to Year of the Dragon, not just because Insomniac was running out of ideas for what to do with Spyro himself moveset-wise, is because there was this series called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on PlayStation. It was just called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. There was one, I believe when Year of the Dragon was out, they had just released Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and that was the one that was really popular. The original didn't really catch on with people too much, but by the time they got to the second game, a lot more people were giving it attention, and as a result, the skateboarding genre became somewhat popular for a little while, all thanks to Tony Hawk himself. Interestingly enough, Tony Hawk was a pretty big skateboarding celebrity back in the 90s and even into the early 2000s. So it made sense to have him star in some video games. And then have the skateboarding gameplay inject into other PlayStation games somehow because, yeah, it gives some variety to the gameplay of Year of the Dragon, I guess. I'm sure a lot of people compare Year of the Dragon to Crash Bandicoot Wards. Not just because of the fact neither of those games have a 3 in their title, even though they're the third game in their respective trilogies, but they usually had a lot of stuff, some that people don't really like, but some people tolerate and see it as, for what it is, a valuable extension and adding variety to the gameplay so that it doesn't get stale. And as much as I love the original Spyro, because you're doing the exact same thing for the entire game in Spyro 1, I feel like the gameplay, while simple and focused to be sure, which is definitely worth acknowledging, it can wear on people after a while doing the same repetitive thing over and over. I can definitely understand that, even though, for me personally, it doesn't really get tiring that quickly, especially since Spyro 1 is a much shorter game than 2 and 3. So, I find that usually by the time I'm tired of the core gameplay of Spyro 1, I'm usually almost at the end of the game anyways, so I pretty much just finish my business that I already started, and then I move on 2 and 3, if I'm feeling it, you know? But Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the first skateboarding mission here. You know, just get the 15 lizards. There is a second mission where you need to get all of the lizards in under 3 minutes and without falling off of your skateboard. The only annoying part of that is the part where you can't fall off the skateboard. Otherwise, the 3 minutes is actually a very generous time limit. So, I'm going to do that, and when I do the time trial, I'm not going to have anything to say. I've already said everything I need to say, so look forward to that.
Hey, that was great! And while you were boarding, I found this in a lizard burrow. Alright, if you can catch all the lizards before time expires without wiping out, I might be able to scrounge up another egg. It's not gonna be easy, though. Go get him, Spyro! Whoa, that was sweet! And look, there was another egg in the lizard burrow.
Alright, well, that pretty much takes care of the skateboarding section of Sunny Villa. There's just a couple things I need to mention before we leave. If you go on the skateboard again, you can actually set a new course record. If you score enough points by scoring tricks off of the ramps, you will get a skill point for your trouble. I won't be doing that on screen though, since I feel like that adds unnecessary padding, and it's already bad enough I had to do the same mission twice with a different caveat, and I didn't even do commentary for it, so I feel like that would just be wasting your time as a viewer. But I do want to mention about the difference between the colors of ramps. Forgot to mention that during the casual run through of the level. Orange ramps, when you jump off the end of them, it's just a normal jump. But for the blue ramps, if you jump at the end, you'll do the half-pipe circle turning around thing. If you don't push the jump button at the end of a blue ramp, you will jump off of it normally like with the orange ramp, okay? Alright, so we're back at the top of the tower where you glided off to get the miles. Now, what you want to do is glide to the left towards this yellow gem. It's a very easy glide to make, even if you're a beginner. And you'll reach Sheila's entrance portal. Before entering, make sure you have 311 gems and 5 dragon eggs, and as far as collectibles go, you should be A-okay.
Hey, Spyro. There are Rhinox everywhere. Maybe I can find some peace and quiet at the top of this tower.
Alas, I have lost my love. She's being guarded by evil Rhinox at the top of yonder tower. Can you rescue her for me?
Alright, so the goal for Sheila's section of Sunny Villa is to talk to Rapunzel on behalf of Marco for some reason, because Marco is in love with Rapunzel, I guess, but more on that when we get to Rapunzel herself. At any rate, you don't have a lot of gems to collect here, since you enter with 311 out of 400. That means there's only 89 gems to collect, mostly red and green gems, and only 1 dragon egg, so if you were doing an any % run of Spyro Year of the Dragon where all you wanted to do was just beat the final boss and do nothing else, this might be a section worth skipping. So I guess if you want to do Sunny Villa before Sheila's out in that particular route, you'd be okay to do that. But the goal of this Let's Play is to do 100% because that is how you show off everything worth showing off. Along the way, though, as I mentioned earlier, we will be trimming some of the fat from the viewing side of things, but this will still be a 100% playthrough, even behind the scenes. So don't fret. We will be seeing everything that this game has to offer in this Let's Play. It's just that some of the not too interesting stuff will get brushed aside to save you, the viewer, some viewer time. And, well, time, like money and other resources, is expendable and limited. And we here at the Lasley or Loose Goose Studios believe that the viewer's time is very important, and we don't want to waste or utilize more of it than we have to get our point across. So if this offends you for whatever reason, we apologize in advance, but we feel that this is the approach that will satisfy the most people. Alright? At any rate, for the tower climbing section, you'll want to use Sheila's super jump a lot, but I feel like this is one of the few instances where she also has a double jump. And this is one of the few instances where that can actually come in handy. But more often than not, whatever a double jump can do, a super jump can do better. But you do have a little bit more aerial maneuverability with a double jump rather than a super jump. So that is worth mentioning, of course. Okay, ooh, that's a bit of a bad corner at the end there. So let's go around the corner here and collect the last purple gem in front of Rapunzel and collect the last dragon egg while we're at it.
What? Marco sent you here. I've got a restraining order against him.
What a funny conclusion for that little story arc, and nice animation work on Rapunzel here by, well, not really Toys for Bob, actually they got Sanzaru Games to work on the Spyro 3 portion of the Reignited trilogy. More on that as we progress with this Let's Play.
Look out, Hunter. It's the scary sorceress.
I've warned you already. This place isn't safe for small dragons and pussycats.
Oh, thanks, but I think we can look after ourselves.
Try looking after this.
Come back when you finish witch school, okay? Say, is it just me, or is she kind of cute when she's angry?
So we still get plenty of between-level cutscenes throughout the story. And that one's a pretty hilarious one. Nice magic show by Bianca. Just keep an eye on her, though. You'll see how her character arc progresses.
At last, my portal is working again. Come visit me at the Tiki Lodge.
So in the original game, they didn't really have an accent, but now they have like a Cockney Australian accent, which I think is a nice touch. So on account of the fact that we can't get everything here in Molten Crater on the first visit, this level is going to be rather short, thankfully. It's pretty short even if you were able to get everything on the first visit, and we'll see why that is shortly. At any rate, let's get some more information from our Tiki friend.
Rhinox are running rampant around here, but I can't get anyone out of the Tiki Lodge long enough to do anything about it.
Seem like some lazy Tiki people. Are they Tiki people or are they just rock people, though? I suppose it doesn't really matter too much. Interesting thing about most of the enemies here in Molten Crater, not the large whip-cracking Rhinox, but the smaller metal armor-wearing Rhinox, remind me a lot of the metal armor-wearing Norks from Misty Bog in Spyro 1. Specifically the Beastmaker's homeworld. Misty Bog, you know. The level with all of the really difficult enemies, like the attack frogs and the freaking trees that are trying to eat you alive and all that stuff. Yeah, those guys. They're pretty nasty, don't you know? Good nasty, good Nork, one could say. But yeah, the enemies here in Molten Crater can be pretty tough. The whip-cracking Rhinox, pretty bad example. Now, it's worth mentioning that while the Warthogs look pretty big, they actually can be defeated with a charge. But if you do, they'll give you a little bit of a pushback, which is not a big deal if you're, you know, not too close to the edge.
Be sure to keep your friend Sparks the Dragonfly healthy, Spyro. If his health is low, torch a little creature like the slug below me to release a butterfly.
Well, that would be pretty apt timing if I didn't already find a butterfly earlier. But yeah, little animals that you find lurking around a level in the Spyro games, you kill them and you'll get some food for Sparks. You can get butterflies even if Sparks is at full health. You know, I mean, why not? Sparks does so much, you know? But at any rate, here we're at the end of the level for the most part. Yeah, that didn't take very long at all, I told you. But anyway, glide over here to the left first. You'll want to glide left rather than right, otherwise you may regret it. Alright, so we're going to do that, and then charge back here. Getting back here is pretty tough, but doable, to be sure. and we're going to continue on the main path. You get a key for the treasure chest that we saw at the start of Molten Crater. Before you go anywhere else, before you exit the level or go into any sub-area portals, do make sure you get the treasure chest out of the way first. I learned my lesson after the Spyro 1 Let's Play. If you get a key, you will want to use the key ASAP so that way it doesn't despawn. Can't have that happen. Alright, you can glide here, but you can also drop down from above if the glide proves too difficult or Sparks is too badly damaged and you don't want to, you know, push yourself even more than you have to.
Here, take this egg. They were giving them away at the Tiki Lodge last night.
Take this eek. It's spelled egg. Why is it pronounced eek? Kind of funny though. I love the accents they gave to all these Tiki characters in Molten Crater. It gives this place even more of a unique identity than it already did. But considering you really only experienced like 2/3 of the level in the first visit, you get to see a lot more charm when you come back after rescuing another animal friend, actually. It's not Sheila, it's, well, we should be seeing shortly here in a minute. You go past the exit portal. If you're just doing an any % run, I'd probably just go ahead and leave right now, but let's go ahead and knock these guys out and talk to the sign, and well... Note, Sergeant Bird is currently on an important mission to the inside of a cage. Tough luck. From the sorceress. Sadly, we're gonna have to wait till the next homeworld to rescue our penguin friend, Sergeant Bird. Really nice guy. I hope to introduce him to you guys in a couple episodes, at least. But we also have someone we don't really care much for over here. I wonder what the deal is this time.
Spyro, you're just in time. I saw 2 egg thieves run through this door. Well, actually, they paid me to guard their hideout, but that's irrelevant. I'll happily let you through the gate to chase them down for a small finder's fee.
Oh, this time it's a finder's fee. Okay.
Thank you, Spyro, and best of luck catching those dastardly egg thieves.
So, 300 gems, and there's not even 300 gems that you can collect in the first visit to Molten Crater. You're going to be net negative a few gems, but you actually get 2 dragon eggs in this section. So if you're doing an any % run, maybe consider this for the sake of optimization. It seems like a pretty decent deal, honestly.
Are you the dragon looking for all those eggs? Because I saw a shifty-looking character with one over there.
Well, we have the long-awaited, in quotation marks, return of the egg thieves from the original Spyro. Yeah, it's been a minute. But yeah, they come back here in the Year of the Dragon because, well, the plot of the game is to rescue dragon eggs, so what better time to bring back the egg thieves than now? They were in Spyro 2, but to a much lesser degree. Like, you had thieves in Mystic Marsh and Shady Oasis, but they didn't have eggs, they just had other things, so it wasn't quite the same, but it was close. But now, things have really come full circle, and that's why whenever I come back to Year of the Dragon, I do get a little bit of Spyro 1 nostalgia, if you can believe it. Whereas whenever I play Spyro 2, or replay it, I get almost zero Spyro 1 vibes from it. It really has a distinct identity of its own, even from Year of the Dragon, which I think is a really good thing, honestly. That each Spyro game kind of stands apart from one another, but they do also have their similarities. Kind of like the Crash games, to an extent. And we rescue Moira, or is it Moira? I honestly couldn't tell you.
Aye, there goes another one. He was really fast. Maybe if I activate the supercharge, you'll be able to catch him.
And thus the supercharge returns as well. Kind of a coincidence, but there was supercharging in Spyro 2, but I feel like in Spyro 2, it was a greatly diminished presence compared to how it was in the original Spyro, where some levels basically lived and died by their supercharge, particularly treetops. Also, this wall looks suspicious. Charge into it, and you get a skill point for that. That's one of 2 skill points here in Molten Crater. The other skill point is in the Sergeant Bird section. And it's kind of difficult to explain it without showing how to do it on screen. So sadly, that is an instance of backtracking that I may have to do on screen later on in the Let's Play. Not now, though, but later on, most likely. Much like with Spyro 2's backtracking, I'll cut some of it out, do some of it off screen, but the more interesting stuff I will do on screen, just because, well, I'll most likely have some interesting commentary to provide for it. So, yeah, that's how that will be handled. Before we go to get the other Egg Thief, though, use the supercharge to destroy this metal container. Still some gems? Oh yeah, there's probably still some gems on the path. Okay. But now, supercharge. You may notice it's a lot easier to get the second thief than the first thief, even with the supercharge factored in, because in Reignited at least, Spyro has like 3 levels of supercharge that increase slowly over time. Eventually, you're gonna overtake the thief, and you rescue a baby dragon named Kermit. Totally not named after the Muppet character. No, of course not. Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Spyro Reignited Trilogy. We're currently on Spyro Year of the Dragon. Last time, we took care of some business in Sunrise Spring, the list of which including rescuing Sheila the kangaroo, who we will be seeing again later on in this episode. For this episode, though, the goal is going to be to finish our business with the first homeworld, Sunrise Spring.
The Rhinox have shut down our cloud generator, and I may never see a rainbow again.
So, welcome to Cloud Spires. This could be the first level you do in Sunrise Spring, because you don't need to rescue Sheila to get everything in this level. You are going to need some gems ahead of time, though. And you'll see why you need gems ahead of time in short while, trust me. Let's just say it's because of a certain bear. You know, the bare necessities, as it were, is that you're going to want to have some gems whenever you're going around the levels in any of the Spyro, well, any of the Spyro 2 or Spyro 3 levels, I should say. But yeah, Cloud Spires is a pretty simple level, all things considered. I would say it's much closer to like a Spyro 2 level, rather than some of the larger Spyro 3 levels we'll be seeing later on in the playthrough.
The metal armor those enemies are wearing protects them from your dragon flame. If you hold down the charge button, you can defeat them with your charge attack.
Yes, enemies that have metal armor can only be defeated with a charge. For you see, if you flame metal, it resists it, at least in the Spyro universe. If this was the Pokemon universe, fire beats steel. But some could argue that steel is not quite the same as metal, even though I'm pretty sure it's at least a derivative, a different kind of metal, as it were. But it is what it is. That's Pokemon. We're talking about Spyro. You flame the large enemies, and you charge enemies with metal armor. That's just the way it is. Keep this spot in mind once we complete the main objective of this level, because you are going to need to do a little backtracking for 100%, but it leads to something interesting. So that's good, at least. Alright, I'm going to pick up some more gems. There's going to be a dragon egg all the way over here, guarded by one of these winged Rhinox. And I use winged in quotation marks because those aren't real wings, it's just a costume. Should know. Now I think about it, there is a Yu-Gi-Oh card called Winged Rhinos, I think, which kind of reminds me of that, but thing is, that's actually a real winged rhino. The Rhinox here, they're not really winged, they're just winging it literally. How do I always miss these little cluster of gems over here? I've already done a couple runs of this, practicing or whatever, and I always miss that little cluster of gems over there. It's kind of funny. But, good thing we have the Sparks Treasure Finder by clicking down on the left stick. And, oh no, not him.
Well, if it isn't my favorite dragon. The sorceress has put me in charge of guarding these bellows. However, I might look the other way if I was distracted. counting gems?
Oh, and this time he has to count gems. Well, it's only 200. You can get every gem in Cloud Spires in the first visit, which means that you'll at least be leaving with 200, plus 200. So, could be worse.
Oh, yes. Precious, precious gems. Well then, Spyro, you may now use the bellows anytime you wish. Best of luck on your little egg hunt.
So, this is just something funny I want to mention, because I attempted to record this whole episode of Spyro 3 not too long ago, and it kind of failed because, funnily enough, my capture card started going haywire right after that Moneybags dialogue here in Cloud Spires. And when I was trying to edit that video to see if it was just a minor frame drop, and I would have just had to splice in another technical issue thing like with the Peacekeepers in Spyro 1. But it turns out, after the Moneybags frame drop thing happened, it continued to leak for like at least a third of that recording session. Or that segment, I should say. So, I think it's funny to bring that up because Moneybags essentially cursed the previous recording of this episode. Oh, Lord. Okay, so we have a sub-area above us, a sub-area to the side of us, and if you talk to the Cloud Fairy, I guess you could call him, you'll get the Dragon Egg, the main Dragon Egg for the main objective. We're going to do that first.
Oh, you activated the bellows. Maybe I can get the cloud generator working again. The Rhinox must have been using this thing to clog up the cloud generator.
Alright, so once you take care of this particular Dragon Egg, all of the swirling vortexes in Cloud Spires will suddenly activate. Not sure if it's because of the clouds or because of the rain, but whatever. This one will take you to the sub-area above, but we're going to backtrack a little bit through the level because we need to go back to that spot that I alluded to not too terribly long ago. And thankfully, it's really not too far away from the end of the level. You know, you come over here, you take the swirly, you go through this area, and there's a gem I somehow missed. Okay. But you keep going straight through here, and yep, you take the swirly, and now you get to access a somewhat secret area here in Cloud Spires. This area has a few extra gems, just a few, a small amount of gems, really. It's quite a trifle, but you also get a Dragon Egg for your trouble, if you make it to the end of this path. But, give me a minute. Alright. And the small Rhinox are supposed to resemble the Valkyrie, and they definitely look the part more so in the PS1 version, I feel, of Year of the Dragon. But you still kind of see it here in Reignited as well. They wanted to kind of unify the Rhinox designs in Reignited a little bit more than what was established in the original Year of the Dragon. At least that's the vibe I get, at any rate. Ooh, pretty rainbow. I forget how many baby dragons you rescue just are able to spawn a rainbow in their hands. It's more than that one, though. So, that should be everything to collect in the main area of Cloud Spires. Your statistics should look something like that. Wow, 300 gems and 3 Dragon Eggs. That's pretty, surprisingly equal. Alright, we're going to head over here next. In this area, the mission is going to be to flame 3 sun seeds because you're trying to grow a seed. You're trying to grow a new sun, believe it or not. Now, I don't mean a sun as in a male child. I mean a sun as in the glowing ball of fire in the sky that you see for at least roughly 12 hours a day. Alright, before people start posting weird comments about that, taking my things out of context, which a lot of people like to do with content creators on YouTube. And let me tell you, sometimes it can be hilarious to take people's statements out of context. But if you do it in the wrong way, you're going to give the wrong impression to people that barely know or don't know of the content creator at all. And you're going to send a mixed message. And that can actually be harmful. Alright? It shouldn't matter how big or small the content creator in question should be. This isn't a popularity contest, alright? Quality is quality, and respect is a two-way street. That's one way to put it. But at any rate, this mission is not very hard because the timing you have to flame the sun seeds into the pot is really rather generous. Even if sometimes it might imply otherwise, because sometimes when you're chasing one of these sun seeds, they'll start to dissipate after a while. But it actually takes a pretty long time for them to disappear completely, if you can believe it. So, thankfully, that's all good. And there can be a minor issue in this sub-area when it comes to the gem count. As you can see, Sparks is pointing towards a wall that doesn't have gems. Thankfully, during a practice run, I was able to deduce that this is just one of those weird areas where, after collecting all of the gems in the sub-area, Sparks just won't point back towards the main area for whatever reason. So, if Sparks is pointing to a wall that's clearly a dead end, it's rare in Reignited Trilogy, but if that's the case and you know there are no gems behind the wall, more likely than not there isn't, then you're good. At any rate, 3 sun seeds make a new sun with shades, because, you know, that makes sense. Yeah, easy dragon egg, to be honest.
Now that's what I call a sun. Here, you can have this last sun seed as a souvenir. Think it might be a dead, though.
So the NPC there was named Cumulus. I believe they're named after a cumulus cloud. I don't know the exact connotations of what a cumulus cloud would entail, but I can at least tell you that there is a cloud called a cumulus cloud. I know that much. Alright, so we're going to head to the second and last sub-area of Cloud Spires. This one is the most interesting, though. So we have the Superfly power-up portal, and we also have evil spirits returning from Colossus in Spyro 2. And, let me see if I can spot them. Well, let's collect some gems, and when I spot them, I'll bring it up. But that's not the only returning element from a previous Spyro game, just in this small sub-area in Cloud Spires. Lo and behold, an egg thief! Specifically the blue egg thieves from the original Spyro. We saw these guys in Molten Crater in the last episode, but they were sporting different robe colors, and one of them was boosted by Supercharge. Wasn't quite the same, but these thieves are lifted wholesale from Spyro 1, man. And that really hits the nostalgia, let me tell you. This baby dragon has glasses. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But, yeah, this little sub-area is honestly my favorite part of Cloud Spires. It's kind of mitigated by the fact that Moneybags is here, but yeah, when I think of Cloud Spires, I think of this sub-area. The first area, potentially, because I usually don't do Molten Crater before Cloud Spires, but it worked out better for the pacing of the episodes, turns out. But at any rate, yeah, this is usually the first instance of dealing with an egg thief in Year of the Dragon, which makes a lot of sense, because the plot of Year of the Dragon is to rescue the baby dragon eggs, and, well, why not bring back the egg thieves? Insomniac just had that stroke of genius when they originally made this game. And, well, while you didn't need every single egg in the original Spyro to make it to the end of the game, you were still kind of motivated to do it anyway.
Do you want this doodad? It fell out of the belfry.
I think Stratus is also named after a cloud, a type of cloud, or at least something else related to the weather. Also, the music that was playing when the cloud was being woken up, did that sound like Lofty Castle from Spyro 1, or is it just me? Kinda weird to have even more Spyro 1 nostalgia in Cloud Spires. You know, now I think about